We don't do this very often. News team assemble, Steve. George Pickens has been traded by the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys.
He on the move.
He on the move. He certainly is. It is George Pickens and a 2026 sixth rounder headed to Dallas. And Dallas, in exchange, is sending Pittsburgh a 2026 third rounder and a 2027 fifth rounder. I'll get to why the compensation is extremely important for Pittsburgh's sake, but Steve, I believe we've been hinting at this for a little while now, that George Pickens' time in Pittsburgh was limited.
George Pickens may be on his way out. You can't have $200 and something million wide receivers on the same team. They don't exist. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
He doesn't stay. You can't pay him. You can't pay two guys. Mm-hmm. I don't care how many foot guards he posts on the internet. That ain't happening.
All right, now you can.
I'm too busy breaking my arms, patting myself on the back right there. Dislocating my AC joints to pat myself on the back.
Your initial thoughts, Steve, or do you want me to give a little intel first?
Initial thought. Me. Told y'all.
And I believe that was in perfect pitch.
George Pickens and DK Metcalf cannot coexist. And it doesn't have anything to do with talent. It has to do with locker room. It has to do with behavior. It has to do with a general manager once told me this. I will not say which general manager,
of course,
but he told me this. He said, when a player who's considered ding, 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 no longer can produce to the level of his behavior, they have to decide, does he go or does he stay? And with the Pittsburgh Steelers acquiring DK Metcalf, a vertical threat, and George Pickens, a 2 and a Birkin bag times 10.
Yeah.
And George Pickens, who was acquired. Listen to this. Think about this with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin and all of the players that have been in Pittsburgh. They will tolerate you until your talent is no longer tolerable. How good out of his rookie year in his contract did Chase Claypool do? Did really good. And then all of a sudden he started getting too big for his britches. And what happened? He's out of here.
You know,
and now what does he do?
Looking back, I'm still flabbergasted that they got a 2 for him. No, that they got a 2 for him.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Chase Claypool.
Wild.
Now, they had Deontay Johnson. How good was he? Really good. How good is he still? Excellent. He's so good that the Cleveland Browns said, you can come here, but we ain't giving you no guaranteed money. And he was out of here.
Deontay Johnson has a constant overnight bag with him.
Yeah.
At all times.
I mean, he got a throwaway bag like he on Born, the new one, and he got a throwaway bag as if the world is gonna the zombie apocalypse. I mean, he got it all. 19 passports, different IDs. He's Deontay Jackson, Deontay Johnson. He's Tay Johnson. I mean, he got all kind of aliases just in case, and he's used them. Where did he use them in? He used them in Carolina. Then he went down to Baltimore, and then he went to Houston, and then right back to Baltimore. And he got signed in Baltimore, and then bang, he's in Cleveland. His freaker fire miles and Marriott points probably are standing right now. Mm-hmm. Now we're at George Pickens. I'm telling you, with the new NFL and the money they're throwing out, you will see players get so much money so fast, but teams will not tolerate the inability to keep a person in their locker room that I don't know exactly why I do, but I'm not going to say what has led up to it. But here's what I do know. Teams are willing to pay you millions of dollars today, and by the end of the week, trade you to somewhere else because they feel like it's worth the loss. Think about that. Especially in this economy right now. Let me do it. I know some of y'all don't think I'm very intelligent, so I'll show you I got a little bit of brains. So you're willing to buy a mutual fund that matures in 5 years, but you're willing to cut your losses in 2 just so you don't have to do the damn paperwork.
Well, listen, obviously the DK trade was the first, everybody uses the term tea leaves, but that was the first initial writing on the wall.
That wasn't no tea leaf.
People publicly.
That was that was spray paint. They graffitied on the wall. You is gone.
Well, George knew it. And listen, it's a culmination of a variety of things, right? We had both heard and hinted at what was going on behind the scenes in Pittsburgh, how difficult this situation had become. I heard it from multiple people in that building. And there always is a breaking point, Steve, from the headache you cause and the talent you have. And it intersects at a different point for every player. If you're a number 53 on the roster, they're not putting up with a whole lot.
Yesterday.
Yeah, you're not putting up with a whole lot as an organization. You're the number 1 wide receiver, you put up with a little bit more. And Mike Tomlin put up with a lot. And what ended up happening was a decision was made that we're going to move on. We're giving up a 2 for DK. We're paying DK. You're in the last year of your contract in 2025. I know publicly they're saying, oh, we'd like both of them to come out and play for us in 2025. That was never going to be the plan because everything pointed to a departure. And nobody has debated, and I want to make this clear, and Steven, you know this position better than anyone. Nobody's debating the man's talent. Like, he is a talented wide receiver. And there are people I've talked to in the league that think just talent alone, he's near the top group. He's in that top group probably. But look at everything that comes into play, like you're saying, when you're building a roster, when you're deciding financially what you're going to do in the future. Also, remember, they're up against it. They have to make a decision on George Pickens and what his future is with the team. So their options
they
were
made a decision.
Exactly.
They knew the decision they were making. I will tell you this. This is not anything I've heard. This is something I have observed out of George Pickens. And I would double down and agree with you. George Pickens athletically is probably one of the best players I've seen.
100%.
He also reminds me of another player that I played with for a short amount of time, which is Dwayne Jarrett. Dwayne Jarrett had the best catching a football hands I've ever seen out of a young kid. I mean, God-given talent. There's some dudes walking the street right now that will give their left and right testicle and a kidney to be able to play the type of football that Dwayne Jarrett had the opportunity to play. But somewhere between, for George Pickens, is getting to the game and somewhere leaving the game and leaving a locker room, there is a disconnect that is affecting his ability to make millions and millions of dollars on a consistent basis. And here's what I'm saying. People
Steve, I'd
say,
include the field, honestly.
Oh, go ahead. Do tell them.
Do you remember who were they playing against when they had the Hail Mary to try to win it? And George Pickens ends up fighting the defensive back down the field as opposed to being in the end zone. Browns. Remember? Yeah. So they have a Hail Mary to try to win it against the Browns. And what happens in his route?
He was going Denzel. Yeah.
He's off the field and not participating in a Hail Mary play. By the way, you could be as angry as you want as a DB, but I guarantee he's borderline laughing, going, like, cool, man, drive me out of bounds.
Hey, I do remember that. It's man, but George he's a dynamic football player. So how do you think that him being acquired for the Cowboys, do you think it's good or bad? You first, I'm second.
Okay, one last note on the Steelers. The compensation that they end up getting, this 3rd-round pick in 2026 and this 5th-round pick in 2027 and the comp picks they're going to have in 2026 from some other players, they are aggressively, to my understanding, going after a quarterback in the 2026 draft. at the top of the draft, which is a better class than this past one. And you can see why they didn't go at quarterback until way late in the draft in Will Howard. Just want to put my 2 cents in there. That plays into it, which is why people were talking about a George Pickens trade during the draft. They didn't want 2025 capital, Steve. They wanted 2026 capital because that's where the talent is at quarterback. So cool, give me the 2026 pick, not the 2025 pick during the draft. And so I think this plays perfectly into what they want to do moving forward at that position, as they still believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback for this season.
So they didn't necessarily surrender.
No, you wait for desperation.
They didn't surrender the mutual fund. They just extended a little bit and transferred into a CD with a lower rate, and then still kept it. I'm a money dude, bro. I'm a money dude.
100%,
Some people don't realize it.
And you know what else you are? You're a real estate dude. And if you're open to selling a piece of property, but you know the other guy is desperate for your piece of property, what do? You wait.
Drag my feet.
Drag your, and that's what they did.
I'm talking, what, huh? I'm in a tunnel. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You keep pushing it and pushing it. And what does desperation happen? Well, a team like Dallas that wanted a receiver at 12, to my understanding, they wanted T-Mac, and he ends up going to Carolina, so they end up going with a guard at 12. They don't get a receiver in the draft. Now Jerry Jones's desperation is at another level. You're open to dealing with him. You're open to dealing George Pickens up until November, in all honesty, because of the trade deadline. And so you sit there and you wait out Dallas. Now, Dallas's desperation shows you that they need a number 2 wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb, Steve, had 73 more targets than the next wide receiver on the team. That's unbelievable. And so they get their number 2. What I think happens now is, as you mentioned from the Cowboys' perspective, they give up this capital for a number 2 wide receiver. Now, I'm not sure how happy George Pickens is going to be, because he is now locked into a number 2 receiver spot in terms of targets, and you would say in terms of money, because he is due a new contract. And so you don't make this trade and not extend him in any sense. You could tag him, I guess, next year. But David Mulugheta is his agent, and I believe Jerry's dealing with David Mulugheta and Michael Parsons' contract right now. And so there's going to be a lot of discussions between all of them. The part that I think is the most glaring part of this is, who handles players better than anybody in the NFL, Steve? Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin.
And now you have a head coach in Mike Tomlin who says it's time to move on and part ways from George Pickens. And you're Jerry Jones and you say, okay, Brian Schottenheimer, in your first opportunity as a head coach, handle a headache that Mike Tomlin didn't want to deal with anymore.
James said that, I did not.
Well, I'm just saying, hey, Brian Schottenheimer might be able to. Change of scenery can always be, good for a player.
For a little bit.
Well, what you said is usually the norm. Hopefully, the Cowboys are thinking this is an exception. But that's all got to be put into account. Again, nobody's. I'm just
thinking.
But
I'm thinking about all these different scenarios. You're a number 1 wide receiver.
Who is a real number 1?
Who's a real number 1? We're talking about CeeDee Lamb. But George Pickens has the talent to be a number 1 wide receiver, but will not get paid as a number 1 wide receiver, will not be in the progression as a number one wide receiver, and has a limited route tree of consistently running the plays when you compare the two. And so, yes, he's going to love to holler at his boy and be under his wing of CeeDee Lamb and say all the right things. But the true question is, can George Pickens really be okay with being Robin? Because he ain't Batman in Dallas.
No.
That's 88.
Yeah. Say that again. What number is CeeDee Lamb wearing in Dallas?
88.
Yes.
And all the people who wear 88, ballers.
The guy.
Duh.
The guy. This is a big, big opportunity for Brian Schottenheimer to prove Jerry Jones right that he was the man for the job. But one last part I want to make before we wrap this up. There's only one other spot we're seeing where 2 receivers are getting paid big dollars and the quarterback's getting paid big dollars, in Cincinnati. You just saw a deal for T. Higgins and for Jamar Chase, and we know where Joe Burrow's paid. Obviously, Philly pays both guys, but I think Devontae Smith is highly underpaid. But are they able to pay their pass rusher right now, Steve? Are they paying Trey Hendrickson?
I don't remember.
So
I don't
Dallas,
remember him getting paid. I don't remember him getting paid.
No. So Dallas is going to attempt to pay the quarterback, or Dax is still the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb at the top of the receiver market, right below Jamar Chase. Then you're
Okay.
going to want to pay George Pickens. You still have to pay Micah Parsons. Not only does Brian Schottenheimer have a lot on his plate, Jerry and Stephen Jones do too.
Man, if I really sit here and think about it, sheesh.
But they are more talented, certainly, on the field. We'll see if it works.